After my husband passed away, I didn't want to be a burden. So I offered. Lucas, Brooke, let me stay with you for a while. I'll help out, take care of the baby. You two can focus on work. I said it at their kitchen table, the morning after their anniversary dinner. Brooke smiled, one hand resting on her wine glass from the night before, the other cupped around her coffee mug. Lucas nodded quickly. Too quickly. Like relief. Within a month, I sold our countryside home. The house Richard and I built together, every corner touched by our hands. I used most of the proceeds to help pay off part of their mortgage. They didn't ask, but I knew they needed it. I told myself it was a gift, a way to stay useful. First, they were grateful. Brooke called me Mom, unprompted. Lucas brought home my favorite shortbread from the bakery near his office. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. Weekend barbecues, family breakfasts, polite smiles. The baby giggled when I bounced her on my knee. The dishwasher hummed after every meal. I crocheted small socks in the quiet hours between their schedules. Then one day, Brooke walked past me in the kitchen. I had just finished washing the bottles, hands damp, hair pinned back loosely. She didn't stop, didn't even look at me, just said, "You know, some people just enjoy being useless." I thought I misheard her. Smiled. But something inside me turned cold at first. I told myself it didn't mean anything. That she was having a bad day. That I was being too sensitive. But then she stopped saying, "Thank you." Not even in passing. She began leaving notes instead of asking. "We're out of milk. Lucas doesn't like strong smells in the house. Can you use a different soap? That one lingers." The requests grew sharp. From questions into instructions. From instructions into reminders. Then finally into silent expectations. I began waking earlier to avoid her in the kitchen. Began folding the laundry in my room, where the door could be closed. Began keeping my tea mug tucked in the back of the cabinet so she'd stop accidentally placing it in the donation box. Lucas stayed quiet. He'd give me a tight smile now and then. Once he even mumbled sorry when Brooke scolded me in front of the baby for using the wrong diaper brand. I laughed lightly, said, "It's all right." But it wasn't. Then one evening as I passed their room with a basket of towels, I heard voices. The door wasn't fully shut. "She just sits around," Brooke said. "She's lazy. We feed her, house her, and she acts like it's her right to be here." Lucas's voice low. "It's not like we can kick her out." Another pause. "Why not?" Brooke's tone had no hesitation. I walked to the laundry room slowly. Set the towels down. Folded them without blinking. My hands moved automatically, muscle memory from years of service. But I felt something growing inside me then. Not anger exactly. Not yet. More like recognition. They didn't see me as family. I was a fixture. Quiet utility. A few days later, Lucas's birthday came. I had spent 2 afternoons knitting him a wool scarf in navy. His favorite color since college. I baked a small cake the way his grandmother used to, the one he once said reminded him of home. That evening, I noticed how quiet the house was. The baby was with Brooke's mother, and Lucas hadn't come down from his office. I thought they were resting. It wasn't until I checked my phone that I saw it. A neighbor, Susan from next door, had posted a photo on Instagram. A long table at a restaurant. Dim lighting. Laughter frozen midair. Brooke leaning into Lucas's side. Her arm curled around his. I spotted their friends. Even her co-workers. But not me. When they returned later that night, I was in the living room, still in my cardigan, the baby's pacifier resting on my lap. Brooke walked past, slightly tipsy, her heels tapping across the floor. "Thanks for babysitting," she said, not turning around. Then over her shoulder. "Oh, and maybe think about applying for a job. Walmart's hiring greeters. You'd be perfect. You already stand around all day doing nothing." She laughed lightly. The kind of laugh that pretends not to be cruel. I didn't respond. I just gathered the baby's things and brought them upstairs. Put everything back in its place. That night I didn't cry. But something broke. quiet, irreversible break. Not a snap. Clean shift. Like the sound of a key turning in a lock. I stopped being their mother. I started being myself again. The next afternoon, Brooke left her laptop open on the kitchen table. She always did that. Careless, assuming no one would look. I wasn't snooping. But I saw the subject line. Guardianship inquiry. Elderly relative showing signs of cognitive decline. Click. The email was to a family lawyer. A woman in town. Brooke had written, "If I obtain guardianship over my mother-in-law, would I be granted access to her financial assets? She's beginning to forget things, and I believe it's time we managed her estate responsibly." She had attached a copy of my medication list and a blurry photo of the sticky notes I sometimes left to remind myself where I stored things in this unfamiliar house. She was building a case. Framing me as a woman losing her mind. I sat very still. I reread the message. Once. Then I clicked forward. Sent it to myself. Quietly. Carefully. Later I ran a credit check. Not on myself. Her. $53,000 in debt. Mostly credit cards. One overdue car lease. A private loan from someone with a 19% interest rate. They thought I was defenseless. But I had built and sold a company before Brooke was even out of high school. I still had attorneys. Accountants. I still received birthday cards from old investors. I had simply chosen stillness. That's all. Stillness is not weakness. That night I wrote a list. Contact estate lawyer. Cancel mortgage autopay. Freeze joint credit account. Pack essentials. Call Marlene, she owed me a favor. The next morning I waited until they both left for work. Packed 3 bags. Just clothes. Medications. Personal papers. My wedding ring. The locket with Richard's photo. Then I left. No note. No explanation. No argument. I moved back into my real home. A penthouse I had never listed under my name. Not for privacy but for peace. I stopped all transfers. Blocked their access. I didn't respond to Brooke's texts. She sent 5 that day. Then 10 the next. Lucas called once. I didn't pick up. By the end of the week the messages shifted. From confusion to panic. What happened? Where did you go? Did we do something? I turned off the phone. That weekend, I watered my rooftop plants for the first time in months. Lavender. Basil. A little lemon tree that had bent toward the light since spring. And I thought of the scarf I knitted. Still folded in their closet, untouched. A gift they wouldn't understand. They didn't notice I had vanished. They noticed they had lost control. After a week of silence, the guilt campaign began. It started with a voicemail from Lucas's aunt, Margaret, the one who sends yearly calendars with her cat's face photoshopped onto movie posters. "Olivia, dear, Brooke is just so confused. She's been trying to reach you. She says you disappeared. Is everything all right? You know she cares for you." I listened to it twice. There was no question about what had happened. Just a gentle nudge. As if the problem was my absence, not the reason behind it. Then came a message from my nephew. The one I helped through college. Paid his deposit when he didn't have enough for his dorm. Drove 3 hours to deliver his textbooks when his mail got lost. He wrote, "Aunt Olivia, maybe you should talk to someone. You know, professionally. It's hard when we start slipping without realizing." Slipping. That word again and again. A narrative seeded by Brooke and watered by her charm. I received a call from the local clinic. They said someone had reported a concern about my mental competency. Suggested I come in for a wellness check. I declined. Then came the police report. Lucas's name was on it, alongside Brooke's. The claim: suspected elder abuse and financial exploitation. But not against me. Filed by Brooke on behalf of me. She accused Lucas, her own husband. Clever twist. She claimed he was pressuring me for money, isolating me, making me dependent. Claimed I had confided in her. That I was scared. Lucas apparently had no idea. I received a visit from an officer 2 days later. He was kind. Apologetic. "Ma'am," he said, "we're just doing our due diligence. It's routine. We're obligated to follow up on all reports of this nature." He didn't look like he believed a word of it. Especially not after I handed him the folder. In it, a printed copy of Brooke's guardianship email. Screenshots of her texts. The forwarded email chain between her and the lawyer. My credit history. Her credit history. The financial transfers traced and time-stamped. Audio clips. Quiet moments I'd recorded on my phone. Snide remarks. Dismissive tones. Her voice unmistakable. He leafed through slowly. "I didn't expect this," he said finally. "Most people don't have this level of preparation." Smiled. "Most people don't plan for betrayal. But I'm not most people." He closed the folder gently, as if it were made of glass. "Would you like to press charges?" "Not yet," I said. "But I want it documented. I want every step on record." He nodded. A week later, Brooke was arrested. False reporting. Attempted fraud. Made local news. Not because of the charges, those happen every day. But because of the mugshot. Brooke, always polished, always composed, stared at the camera with mascara smudged and her mouth twisted in something between disbelief and rage. Lucas filed for divorce that month. He sent a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A handwritten letter. He wrote, "I didn't know, Mom. Should've. That's on me. I'm sorry for what I let happen. I'm sorry for what I became around her." He didn't ask for money. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He asked for dinner. Just us. No strings. We met at a quiet bistro near the water. The same one Richard used to take me to on Thursdays, back when Lucas was still in high school. He stood when I arrived. Pulled out my chair. His eyes looked older. Smaller. But his hands shook as he poured the water. "I kept the scarf," he said. "It's in my drawer. I never wore it. I thought it might smell like home." We didn't talk about Brooke. Not directly. Instead we talked about books. About the bakery that had closed down. About how the baby, my granddaughter, still asked for me in her sleep. He didn't ask if I'd come back. And I didn't offer. Some silences deserved to stay whole. That night, I returned to my penthouse. Watered the lemon tree. Lit a candle. Lavender. And I thought of all the times I had bitten my tongue. All the years I had played the quiet role. The good mother. The helper. The wallet in a cardigan. I stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Below me life moved on. Taxis and footsteps. Laughter from a rooftop I couldn't see. And I felt something I hadn't in years. Stillness. But not the stillness of resignation. The stillness of sovereignty. Brooke once said I was too lazy to work. She said it over her shoulder, half drunk, in a house I paid for, while I rocked her child to sleep. Now she sits in a courtroom explaining her signatures, her emails, her choices. And I belong to no one. I invest. I travel. I read again. I eat dinner when I want. I sleep with the window open. I am not rebuilding. I am simply living freely and fully. And in this quiet, I find not emptiness. Peace. I didn't leave right away. I waited. I waited because I knew how people like Brooke operated. She didn't build traps. She laid groundwork. Quiet, careful groundwork. Planted in soft words, vague concerns, documented misunderstandings. I remembered the way she asked me to repeat myself in front of the pediatrician when I'd mentioned forgetting to warm the bottle. How she, gently, corrected me in front of the pharmacist when I asked about a refill I hadn't needed yet. How she sighed when I struggled with the child safety lock on the back gate. It hadn't been accidental. None of it. She had been collecting exhibits. And now I had one of my own. The guardianship email sat in my inbox. I reread it each night for 3 nights straight, letting its weight settle. Then I called Martin, my old attorney. He hadn't heard from me in years. Not since Richard passed. But he picked up on the second ring. "Olivia," he said. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" His voice was warm. Trustworthy. The kind of voice that never rushes. I need your help, I said simply. I sent the forwarded email before we spoke again. Then I visited his office the next morning, a folder in hand. Inside, copies of my will, my account summaries, photos of the house deed I still had scanned from when we paid off their mortgage early. And the email. Martin read silently, then leaned back, steepling his fingers. She's smart, he said. I know. But she got greedy. I know that too. She's trying to make you look incompetent so she can seize control of your estate. She'll fail, I said. But not loudly. He looked at me, his gaze sharper now. You're not looking for justice, are you? No, I said softly. I'm looking for clean air. We worked fast. He flagged my accounts for manual authorization only. No automatic payments. No third-party access. He drew up a revocation of the informal financial authority I'd allowed when I moved in. A soft arrangement that hadn't been properly documented but left my accounts vulnerable to misuse. I met with a private investigator the following week. His name was Clark. He was younger than I expected. Wore jeans with a blazer and kept a small notebook instead of a laptop. He listened more than he spoke. I told him I needed confirmation. Not suspicion. Not confrontation. I want to know what they've been doing. With what I gave them. He nodded. 2 days later I began packing. Not suitcases. Not boxes. Just a simple canvas bag. Change of clothes. My prescriptions. My passport. Few documents. I also took the locket. Not because I needed it. Because I didn't want her to find it and decide it was hers. That morning I made breakfast like usual. Oatmeal for the baby. Coffee for Lucas. Brooke didn't eat carbs anymore. I smiled when they left. Waved from the porch. Picked up the baby's toy from the steps and placed it in the basket by the door. Then I walked upstairs, zipped my bag and left through the side gate. No note. No warning. Just the sound of gravel under my feet. Marlene met me 3 blocks away. She didn't ask questions. Just drove. Back at the penthouse, I stepped into a space that still smelled faintly of cedar and old books. My books. I opened the curtains. Let in the light. Turned off the autopay on their mortgage. Cancelled the grocery account. Deactivated the shared credit card. I opened the shared storage folder where I kept photos of the baby, medical appointment reminders, and grocery lists. Then I deleted it. All of it. Brooke texted that afternoon. Did you go out for something? Then later. Where are you? Lucas says the bank rejected the mortgage transfer. Can you check? The last one simply said. Are you mad? I turned the phone off. That evening I had dinner on the balcony. Tomato soup. A heel of sourdough. 1 glass of red wine. Tasted like breath. Like space. I let the city noises filter up into the night. The hum of traffic, the whistle of a pressure valve from the building next door, a dog barking twice then falling quiet. Everything moved without me. And I didn't miss a thing. Brooke's panic arrived in stages. First it was soft. Missed call. Then another. A voicemail from Lucas. His voice strained but still polite. Mom, just let us know you're okay. Please. Then came the escalation. Text after text. Most from Brooke. This isn't funny. Where are you? You're being irrational. Do you know what you're doing to Lucas? We're worried. I didn't answer any of them. The following week, I received a notification from the delivery service we used for household groceries. Brooke had attempted to access the shared family account. Then again, her access was denied. Eventually, she created a new one in her own name. Next, she tried to log into the mortgage app. I had removed her user profile entirely. Lucas sent one more message, just 5 words long. Did you stop the payments? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I had warned them, just not in words. In the weeks that followed, I remained still. Quiet. But not idle. Clark, the investigator, sent updates every few days. Always brief. Always precise. Brooke submitted a request for a personal loan. Denied. Lucas's car registration has lapsed. Utilities flagged for non-payment. She's spoken to 2 new lawyers. One declined to represent her. They were unraveling. One Friday morning, Clark forwarded me something different. An email between Brooke and her sister. Brooke had left the thread open in a shared Google Doc, probably trying to sync it between her devices. Clark caught it before she closed access. The email read, "She's not answering. She just cut us off. Lucas is in pieces. I can't believe she did this. After everything we did for her. It's like she wants to punish us." The response from her sister was brief. "You used her. You got caught. Move on." I sat with that a while. People like Brooke don't move on. Not easily. They circle the drain of their own story, pulling others in with them. A few days later, I found out Brooke had started a rumor, one designed to flip the narrative. She told neighbors I had early signs of dementia, that I'd been confused, that I'd wandered off during an errand and ended up in another city once, that I was paranoid, that I'd become aggressive, that Lucas was heartbroken and trying his best to protect me. They were subtle lies, the kind that seem plausible, the kind that stick. I didn't bother correcting them. I didn't need those people. But what she hadn't counted on, what none of them ever count on, was that I had kept records. Old voicemails, messages, photos of prescription bottles, audio recordings of her remarks, a receipt for the scarf, a bank statement showing where the money had gone, a video clip of her yelling in the background of a birthday party while I rocked the baby to sleep. And then there were the legal files. Martin had assembled them carefully, time-stamped, signed, notarized. Full timeline, a full narrative. One evening, a formal letter arrived from Brooke's new attorney. It was thinly veiled, a request for clarification on my financial transfers. A suggestion that I may have been manipulated into revoking access. A nudge to consider resolving matters privately, before public proceedings. I faxed back a single page. Martin's letterhead at the top. A brief statement. 3 lines. All claims are baseless. All transfers were voluntary, documented, and legally sound. Further contact will be considered harassment. I never heard from that attorney again. But that didn't stop Brooke. She filed a report with Adult Protective Services. Claimed I was being coerced by unknown parties. That I was isolating. That I had a history of erratic behavior. I received a visit again. Another caseworker. Another evaluation. But this time I was ready. I welcomed her in. Offered tea. Sat her at my kitchen island. I handed her the folder. The one Clark had started. The one Martin had fortified. She read it slowly, line by line. I didn't interrupt. When she looked up, her expression had changed. "Mrs. Langley," she said carefully, "do you feel safe?" "Yes," I said. "But that's not the question you meant to ask." She blinked. "You meant, do I feel vindicated?" Her pause was brief but telling. "And do you?" she asked. I looked out at the terrace. The lemon tree was blooming again. "I feel clean," I said. When she left, I poured myself another cup of tea and deleted the last voicemail from Brooke. Then I did something unexpected. I pulled out the old photo of the baby. 6 months old, eyes round, hair wild, wearing the sweater I knit the week she was born. Framed it. Set it on my bookshelf. Because this was never about the baby. This was about me. And how I forgot I mattered. This was about how easily we let ourselves become accessories to someone else's life. How we fold. How we apologize just for standing where we are. But not anymore. Let Brooke tell her stories. Let Lucas mourn whatever version of me he wanted me to stay. Let them call me cold. Because I am not waiting for kindness anymore. I am not holding out for apologies that never come. I am not a memory they can reshape. I am Olivia Langley. And I answer to no one. I didn't think it would go further. But people like Brooke don't stop when they lose. They reframe. She changed her tone. Stopped reaching out directly. Instead, she deputized others. Gave them scripts. Planted seeds. I started getting calls again. A woman from Lucas's old school board. Someone I hadn't spoken to since the baby shower. Left a message. I heard you're going through something. Just wanted to say we're praying for you. Then a family friend. Brooke mentioned you might be moving into assisted living. That's so brave, Olivia. Then, finally, a former neighbor. She said you've been isolated. That you're in trouble financially. That you don't know who's around you anymore. The lies had gone national. She wasn't just smearing me. She was preempting the fallout. Painting a portrait of a confused, lonely widow adrift in a sea of manipulators. It was clever. It was also proof she was scared. The week after that, Martin called me. Are you sitting down? He asked. I'm always sitting these days, I said lightly. But go ahead. She's filed a civil petition. Claims you made financial gifts under duress. Wants a court to determine capacity retroactively. My stomach didn't drop. That surprised me. I just asked, did she include Lucas? No. She's distancing from him now. Casting him as neutral. Of course. Martin continued. She's hoping to force a mediation. If a judge even lets this go forward, she'll ask for restitution. Likely demand part of the money from the mortgage, maybe some control over estate holdings. And if the judge sees through it, she'll withdraw before discovery. I went silent for a moment. Then said, let it go to court. Are you sure? I'm tired of ghosts. I'd like one clean exorcism. We filed a response. Included full documentation. Paper trail. Video logs. Screenshots. Statements from Clark. Timelines. Medical records. Psychiatric evaluations I took voluntarily. 2 character affidavits. One was from my pharmacist. The other, from Iris, my late husband's cousin. A nurse, a sharp mind, and the woman who stayed with me the night Richard died. I hadn't asked her for anything since. But when I called and explained, she said, I'll testify if they want me to. She didn't have to. Her affidavit was enough. The court date was set for the following month. In the meantime, Brooke began a new campaign. Humility. She showed up at the front desk of my building. I wasn't there. My concierge Noreen called me instead. She looks tired, Noreen said, not unkindly. She left a gift. The gift was a potted orchid and a handwritten card. I miss our talks. I was angry. I made mistakes. I hope we can find each other again. I didn't respond. A week later, Lucas came. He didn't try to come up. He waited outside the building, sent one message. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted to say I see it now. All of it. I'm sorry. That one I read twice. Then I deleted it. Because the apology came too late. Not just in days. In years. In choices. In the moments I stood alone, being made to feel small, while he watched silently from the other room. My courtroom date arrived on a gray morning. It wasn't a big room. Just a hearing chamber. A single judge, no jury. Brooke sat across from me. She wore beige. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back in what I imagined she thought was a humble style. Her lawyer did most of the talking. I watched her hands. They trembled once, when Martin played the audio clip of her laughing during the party, calling me the house ghost. The judge didn't flinch. But she took notes. When it was my turn to speak, I stood without notes. I said, I am not confused. I am not alone. And I am not disposable. Then I sat down. That was it. No tears. No long defense. The judge requested a recess. Said she would issue a ruling within 2 days. Took 4 hours. Martin called me that afternoon. She threw it out. Every count. Cited lack of merit. Documented consent. No evidence of coercion. She even mentioned your orchid collection. I laughed then. Real laugh. Finally, something grows where it's supposed to, I said. After that, it ended quietly. Brooke didn't appeal. Lucas never reached out again. The silence at last was clean. That weekend I visited the rooftop. I trimmed back the rosemary. Deadhead the marigolds. Refilled the bird bath. I watched the city stretch around me. Endless windows. lives stacked in rectangles. And I thought, they tried to bury me beneath their story. But I built my own garden. And I'm the only one who knows where the roots are. It didn't happen overnight. The peace came slowly, like morning light edging into a room that's forgotten what warmth feels like. For the first few weeks after the hearing, I waited for the aftershock. Some last attempt, one more tactic. But nothing came. Brooke vanished from public view. Lucas returned to whatever version of himself he could stomach. Their house, the one I had helped pay down, went up for sale within 2 months. A modest listing, tucked between school zones and cul-de-sacs. I didn't watch it sell. Didn't check the price. Some things lose their meaning once you stop being invited through the front door. Kept the penthouse. Not because it was grand but because it was mine. Chosen, not inherited. A space untouched by expectation. No baby monitors. No passive sighs from another room. No notes on the fridge telling me what to fix, what to buy, what to be. I filled it with fewer things. Small bookshelf. Chair by the window. A single cabinet for dishes. 3 teacups, all chipped, but each with a story. Iris visited once. The only family I still allowed past the threshold. She brought lemon bars and a packet of wildflower seeds. They're not fancy, she said. But they're stubborn. The kind that grow between cracks. We planted them on the rooftop that weekend. By spring they'd begun to bloom. Soft yellows, pale blues, a single streak of violet like a vein through quiet soil. I started writing again. Not journals. Not letters. Lists. Not the kind Brooke used to leave. Cold bullet points meant to choreograph another day of unpaid labor. These were gentler. Things I own. Things I no longer owe. Things I love in silence. Things I survived without acknowledgement. The last one grew longest. Under it I wrote, a home sold under false gratitude. A birthday missed. A scarf never worn. A thank you that never came. A love turned ledger. And then, just below those, myself. I had survived myself too. The version of me that waited too long. That accepted too little. That swallowed shame and called it patience. That part had died. In its place something else had emerged. Not bitterness. Not vengeance. Clarity. People confuse them but they're not the same. Bitterness wants payback. Clarity just wants freedom. I started walking the park again. Not early like before. Not to avoid stares or questions. But late. When the city had exhaled. When the trees held light like secrets. I wore what I liked. Never asked if it was flattering. Never cared. Sometimes I walked without purpose. Just one step after another. As if reclaiming space required repetition. And maybe it did. Past women sometimes. Alone like me. Gray hair, good posture, eyes that had learned not to beg. We nodded to each other. No conversation. Just quiet recognition. A flock of swans lives at the far end of the park. I watch them when I feel untethered. They glide with such arrogance, such stillness. Their power lies in their refusal to flap wildly. It reminds me of something Richard once said. Not everything that moves makes progress. Sometimes stillness is the revolution. He was right. I no longer try to fix other people's broken fences. I no longer extend olive branches into fires. I no longer explain decisions that preserved me. I simply exist. Fully. Quietly. Unapologetically. Few months ago I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside a school photo of the baby. Her name printed neatly on the back in unfamiliar handwriting. No note. No message. Just her eyes. Still large. Still unsure. She would never know what happened between us. And that perhaps was mercy. I placed the photo in a drawer. Not out of anger. Just because I didn't want to put it on display. Love doesn't always survive disuse. Sometimes it folds. Quietly. Like a sweater you used to wear before the collar stretched. And it's no one's fault. Just time. Just distance. Just the truth. I no longer call myself a mother first. I am not a former role. I am not a placeholder. I am not an accessory to someone else's evolution. I am Olivia Langley. I read late into the night now. I buy the expensive jams. I take the extra slice of cake when no one's looking. I say no without preamble. I sleep with the window open. Even in winter. I keep a lavender sachet beneath my pillow. Not because it reminds me of anyone, but because it reminds me of rest. The real kind. The kind you earn. The kind that isn't interrupted by footsteps in the hall or whispered disappointments. The kind that doesn't ask if you're still useful. Lucas writes sometimes. Emails. Parse. Hope you're well. She started reading chapter books. She won the science fair. I never respond. Not because I wish him harm, but because I wish myself peace. And peace for me has begun to mean silence. Brooke doesn't write. I imagine she's still building her next story. Still learning how to tell it without the part where she loses. Her. My story is not a tragedy. It's not even about her. It's about a woman who remembered herself. Who stepped off the stage. Who dropped the mask. And chose the quiet over the applause. I sit now on the rooftop, watching dusk arrive without fanfare. The city goes on. Cars. Distant music. Someone laughing. Me. Ill. Unbroken.